Dennis, thank you for letting me interview you.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to, I looked at your blog and I saw a blog about happiness, and it reminded me of an incident about a month ago. I had an iPhone. It wasn't the latest, greatest, but it was, it had email and everything. And I was walking my car and I went home. It was gone. So my entire life was on that iPhone. I was reading your blog and I was thinking, geez, like it really got me down. Like, okay, I was so attached to this. And in relation to your book, why do we get so attached to these things? Why do we get attached to physical items and try and create happiness out of that?
That's a great question, Harsha. And here's the interesting thing that I find. In my book, Turning Terrible into Terrific, what we talk about is how do you take like a terrible situation and then find something great or something positive that comes out of it. And in my experience, this is what happens. When people have truly traumatic things, so in my book I talk about my daughter going through brain surgeries and being in the hospital for 6 months. I mean, really, that was a tough time in our life. And somehow, being able to find something positive that can come out of that. Now for us, what came out of that was building a better relationship with my family. From that experience, what came about was realizing how important it is to really appreciate each day. Now, in our lives, it's always like when something big happens like that, when a serious illness happens, or there's a serious tragedy, or a home is lost, those problems, like you know the problem is there and everybody pulls together to work through it.
Yeah.
But then there's those little things that happen. It's those little annoyances because what happens is they're so little they don't really register that they're affecting your mind and they're bringing you down.
Yeah.
So it's like an iPhone, and you just said my whole life was on there. No, it wasn't. You're standing right here and you're a nice guy. Your life is where you are. The phone is just a little phone, but people get stuck in traffic and they get annoyed and it ruins their day. Or they don't get a promotion at work and they get annoyed and it ruins. Oh, my whole life is ruined because but really, it's happiness is where you choose to find it, and really where it happens is right in here. The real challenge is that most people don't maintain that focus inside, because we've been trained as a society to look for all of the things that are outside that will make us happy. So an iPhone, or the car you drive, or the restaurants that you eat in, or the people who you can show off to with how cool you are outside. And in the end of the day, though, all of those things can be taken away. And all of those things you have no control over. For you to be truly happy, there's only one person who can be in control of your happiness, and that's you. You can decide to be happy. And so one of the things we talk about in the book, Turning Terrible into Terrific, is about changing your life at the speed of thought. Because in an instant, you could just decide to be happy.
So do you give tools that people can use?
Absolutely. Part of the book is at the end of each chapter, there are actually exercises. Because it's really simple. It's so simple to do it, but most people have never had the tools put in place. So what we'll do is we'll explain one of the principles on how you maintain the happiness, how do you maintain gratitude in your life, and then we give you the tools to make that your natural behavior. Your natural way of thinking becomes to look for the happiness. It's easy to be happy when everybody around you is happy, because it's just a happy environment.
Yeah.
It's harder to be happy when everybody around you is not. And the challenge is, how do you look through all the things that are not going right to find the one thing that is? And can you maintain focus on that one thing? And if you can find the one thing that is, and there's always one thing that is, even if everything is going wrong, the thing that's going right, the thing that you can be grateful for, is the lesson that can be taken from it. But you've got to be able to realize that, hey, I am learning and growing through this experience, even when it may not seem really great at the time. There's not a lot of good things that happen from my daughter having a brain tumor and being in the hospital. But as a consequence of that, a lot of great things have happened. So now with the information that I learned from that, now I speak about how to be happy no matter what happens. I have my brand new book coming out, Turning Terrible into Terrific, teaching people how to take that strategy and how to, have some real world principles to make happiness a reality for them.
So was that your intention when you started writing the book, or was that Did that just kind of naturally evolve?
You know, I say, you know, my daughter's has some physical challenges. That being said, she's one of the most inspiring people in my life on the planet. And really that intention was inspired by her and my experience of being with her in the hospital. You know, I literally lived in the hospital 5 days a week for 6 months.
Yeah.
And what came across was that there were other families, and you could see they came in and their shoulders were rounded and they were beaten down and they were always sad and tempers flared and there was anger. And I had made this decision early on in her hospital stay that I was going to be grateful for anything that happened, because I still had my daughter, and there were children that did not survive the hospital, that had passed away. And I had my little girl. So no matter what else went on in my life.
For a whole year? Or
for 6 months. For 6 straight months. It kind of wore you down, I'll tell you. But here's what I chose to take on one job for those 6 months. And my job was to make my little girl laugh. It was to make her smile, because she had been through so much. And you know, she'd been through so much more than I had ever been through, or anyone should ever have to be through.
I know.
Yeah. So my intention was to make her laugh, and not just her, but all the other kids on the floor. Because you know, one of the things that I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I didn't have to go to work anymore. So I could stay at the hospital every day, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. My wife would come a couple days a week, but I was there most of the time. There were other children who didn't have their parents with them because they had to work so hard. They had to struggle. They had to take care of their other children. They didn't have the means to do that. So my mission was to help give people the tools, to give them the freedom that no matter what happened in their life, they could choose to be happier about it and to be able to commit to what was truly important to them. And for me, that true importance is family.
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for the interview. I can just say, me losing that iPhone, what I gained out of that was, and it's nothing compared to your story, but those little things. I've just got a simple phone now, and life's a lot freer. I go to my computer if I want to email,
right,
and there's a lot less distractions.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. Whether it's a little iPhone or a chair that's out of position or it's something traumatic, it's the same effect inside your head. It changes your attitude exactly the same. And often it's those little things that have a bigger effect than the big things.
And they all add up.
And they all add up.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
And I'll
Thank you.
catch you next time. Yeah.
All right, you got it. Cheers. Take care.